Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and welcome back to another episode of Lost Episode Creepypastas. What is a Lost Episode Creepypasta? Well, it's like Squidward's Suicide or The Amazing World of Gumball, typically an episode or a TV show or a piece of media that has lost footage that has been uncovered. This one is titled The Black Friday Incident, focusing on Toy Story from Disney. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the Black Friday Incident. The early stages of production on the film Toy Story were a complete nightmare. The production was in a sort of development hell until the infamous Black Friday incident. Disney harassed the then-new animation studio Pixar constantly. They were to produce and release the film, and they wanted results as quickly as possible. Disney tried everything to eliminate Pixar's efforts to deviate from the Disney formula, even at times threatening to shut the production down. Disney sent notes on revisions that they thought would improve the film. They insisted that their notes, which all read, "Edge. The film needs more edge." The people working on the film at the time struggled so hard to maintain all of Disney's notes and demands. Once a week, they were required to fly across the country to the Disney offices to present them with progress. Every time they were met with the same response: edge. The film needs more edge. Pixar revised the film so hard to meet the deadlines that it resulted in some rather interesting changes. In order to achieve edge, the film became quite a lot darker. Woody became a wildly unlikable character, much more angry and far less comedic than in the final film. Bo Peep's role in the story was far more prevalent, often flirtatious towards the male characters, and is the first to accuse Woody of pushing Buzz out the window. Buzz Lightyear was referred to at this point in production as Lunar Larry. He is highly reminiscent of an older superhero, talking in a deeper voice and is even more deluded and ignorant of his surroundings. The other toys were relatively unchanged, save for minor aesthetic differences. Pixar employees worked literally 24/7 non-stop. Director John Lasseter joked on more than one occasion that he had the best parking space at the office because his car hadn't moved for over 3 days. Some of the writers and storyboard artists began to suffer from chronic insomnia, and a few writers reported seeing visions of Buzz and Woody taunting them on their lack of progress, chanting, "Edge! The film needs more edge!" Many of the initial writers quit due to the stress it was putting on their personal lives, much to the distress of the remaining crew. By November of 1992, there were only about 2 of the 5 writers left, and one of the 3 storyboard artists. The remaining storyboard artist was named Rolf Thompson. He joined the Pixar team in the winter of 1987, working on short films such as Tin Toy and Knick Knack. He at the same time did some storyboard work for The Nightmare Before Christmas with fellow artist Joe Ranft. Joe came down with a serious illness and hadn't been to work in a week. Rolf worked constantly in fear of the inevitable correction by Disney. The more edge, more edge. Each presentation meant another row of sleepless nights of rewriting and redrawing the same characters in the same bedroom over and over and over. It was maddening. One morning, John Lasseter, Andrew Stanton, and other higher-ups at Pixar came into the office and then told everyone what happened at their last meeting. Disney felt that things were not looking very good for the film and demanded that in less than a week they see the complete film in story reels, storyboards with audio, with massive revisions. There was a general groan and whining from the crew, but they went back to working. Rolf worked harder than all others involved. Sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning, one of the writers would walk into Rolf's office with a packet of newly written scenes, more to draw, and with more drawings meant more scratch voice work. When a film is still in the writing storyboard stages, artists will do temporary voice work for the story reels. But moving on, he had Disney's vague instructions racing through his mind. More edge, edgier, more. We want results, people, edgier. This is a business, faster, more edge, move on already. He thought to himself. This exactly. The film needed an edge. It needed to be darker, more cynical. It needed more adult humor in situations. It needed an attitude, of course. Rolf, you goddamn retard! How couldn't you see it sooner? Edge! All those hundreds of hours bent over a desk and all you needed was some fucking edge. Why didn't you listen sooner? He gave the film an edge. The story reels were flown over the main crew of the head offices at Disney. The date was November 27, 1992, Black Friday. The film was brought into a Disney screening room. The reel was about 48.5 minutes long. The movie started out as a Western-style shootout between Woody and Andy, resulting in Andy being shot down. It's revealed that this is more than just a game played inside of Andy's mind. The film continued with little problems for about 20 minutes or so. Through several gags, they seemed off. with the overall tone of the film, just out of place. For example, Mr. Potato Head would pull one of his eyes out and then kick them under Bo Peep's dress for a look-see. There were several scenes of Woody yelling at the toys to stop caring about Buzz, Larry, and to pay attention to him, culminating in insults and minor acts of violence. The scene comes where Andy can only take one toy to Pizza Planet, and Woody pushes Buzz out the window. Woody offers to shake hands with Buzz, only to throw him out the window. There's a stock smashing noise. The other toys are shocked and antagonize Woody for what he has done. Woody shows little remorse and screams at Slinky Dog to make the toys stop harassing him, and after much yelling, one of the Green Army men saying the words, "God damn." The toys grab Woody and toss him out the window as well. He falls onto the ground with a low thump. Cheering is heard from the interior of the house. The quality of the storyboards became, much less refined and almost like chicken scratch. Woody gets up and sees Buzz. Buzz's body is shattered on impact. His arms and legs were broken off and located only a few inches away. There was a large crack down the middle of the chest, revealing a mess of buttons and wires inside. He gave off a sort of electrical twitch motion in his head. His eyes looked as if they were about to pop out their plastic sockets. The twitching stops, after a few moments, and Woody looks in fear at what he has done to Buzz and runs off. There's a jump cut to the scene where the two get stuck in a claw machine. The storyboard art is back to the normal level of quality. The machine is filled with sunglasses wearing pizzas as opposed to the aliens in the finished movie. Buzz is completely unharmed and intact. The scene is almost verbatim to the final film. Sid, the antagonist in control of the claw, is wearing a yellow t-shirt and is smoking 3 cigarettes at once. The claw grabs Woody and Buzz, putting them in the clutches of Sid. There's another jump cut, once again returning to the chicken scratch style of artwork. The scene is inside of Sid's room. Woody looks around in the room in fear. He tiptoes around and collapses after seeing one of Sid's mutant toys. The reel now shows unrelated test animation of the characters running. A few seconds of Buzz running in place, a few seconds of Woody running, and nearly a minute of the two running together. The footage is distorted and Spanish text is presented on the screen. It looked like clay models that got life. There is now a shot of Woody standing in front of a black background and a trademark Pixar ball is rolling around in the distance. The animation now is the traditional animation style of a typical 2D Disney film. Woody is completely naked with anatomically correct features and stares directly into the camera. His flesh begins to rot away with the exception of his eyes, which remained intact. Woody begins to moan in a low voice. What remains of his lips curls into a smile, bits of flesh peeling off as this happens. He lifts up his decomposing arm manually and waves into the camera. His fingers dig into his eyes, dark blood oozes out of their sockets, and Woody begins to scream and growl. Don't you want it? Don't you want it? Don't you love it? He digs so deep as to rip the entire top half of his head off. Woody gives a sigh of relief and begins eating the flesh off of the skull before tossing it aside. He writes the word edge on the screen with his rotting fingertips. The remaining 15 minutes of that reel were pencil scribbles accompanied with the shrill screams of a young woman. The word edge is burned into the projection screen. The screening ended in complete silence. Chairman of Disney at the time, Jeffrey Katzenberg, walked out of the screening quietly telling his colleagues, "Notes. They are following all the notes we were giving them." Upon return to the Pixar offices, writer Pete Docter found the body of Rolf Thompson in an enormous pile of paper in his office. Further analysis found that the cause of death was a heart attack, brought on by a lack of sleep and stress. The papers were all storyboards and animation cells of the final coherent scene of Woody. The word edge scrawled on the back of each one, and after the Black Friday screening, Disney was far less involved with the film. Pixar was given the freedom to make the film their way. The film went on to be a huge success, both critically and financially. The Black Friday incident still remains very much a mystery. Oh man, Disney, Disney, Disney. It's like the cat video equivalent of who to point fingers at in creepypastas, I guess you could say. But can you really blame it? I mean, this is one of the biggest media groups in the world, creating some really acclaimed pieces of work. So, for them having a domain on Lost episode creepypasta, villainy, they do sort of, have the bravado and title to get that. But now the Black Friday incident is real, but obviously not to the extent we see in the story. I mean, you got to think about it. You really think the executives watching after that, would say they followed the notes very well? I mean, it is Disney, not the, fucking Knights Templar or the Illuminati, for fuck's sake. Or are they? I don't know. That's a different video. But in the end, we see that the scene did actually exist, in reality as well, but, you know, could it have the meaning as it is described here? I mean, could it have been the exact same way it's described here? I mean, we know Disney wanted more and more edge. This is true. And this is what probably would have occurred after all the stress and intensity of working on, you know, such a project and endeavor for that long period of a time. Trust me, I've worked on gigs myself that have lasted a while and left me stressed out to the point where the product I would showcase at a meeting with other editors would, you know, also be following notes. But then again, it was never as dark as this, and I was never asked to make something more edgier. But, you know, then again, this is sort of like Squidward's suicide in the way it works as well, which is, again, popping into my head whenever I do a Lost episode creepypasta, because that is the standard I set them to. And the reason it works is because of similar parameters. I mean, you never can know what happens, you know, in a private meeting. You don't know what happens in a studio. Not many people do. For all we know, these exact accounts occurred. The exact stuff mentioned in this creepypasta occurred, or something far opposite. You will never know, because the constant myths and whatnot surrounding this, you know, theory makes it eerie. You'll never ever know. But that's what makes it good. Now, personally, I don't think it ever happened this way, but then again, what would I know too? What would anyone know but the ones in that screening room? The executives and the people working on that project. Will they ever share it? Will they not? You don't know. Unless they do. But what do you think, and what would you rate this? Let me know in the comments below. This has been another episode of Creepypastas, and if you liked what you saw, then like, comment, and subscribe. This is me, Mudahar, and I am out.